Hello, welcome to our next lesson. First, let's start off by defining hacker. And there are two possible meanings of hacker. One is the definition of hacker is that it's for anyone who accesses a computer system or network without authorization from the owner. And this is the kind of standard definition of hacker in today's society and during today's times. And this has a negative connotation to it, generally speaking, in society, where those who are hackers are considered to be criminals and deviants who should be stopped for what they're doing. However, there is an earlier definition of hacker, and this is one who plays with computers for the pure intellectual challenge. They're master programmers, they're honest, not greedy, and they do not harm anyone. Once again, this was an earlier meaning of hacker. This might be perhaps before your time, but during my time when I was growing up, when the internet was first coming out, this kind of notion of hacker was kind of an idealized and romanticized notion of a hacker, of someone who is trying to do good and trying to be honest, but also, in a way, hacking or getting into other people's computer programs and computers. And for our purposes, our focus on this chapter is on the second meaning of hacker. So anytime we see the word hacker here, I'm referring to the second definition of hacker. So there are three main principles of a hacker ethic. One is that information should be free. There are some hackers who believe that all information on the internet should be free. This can be things like, for example, music, movies, computer programs like Microsoft Office, for example. Everything should be free on the internet, and part of their and this is kind of one of their ideals that they believe the internet should be. The internet should be a place where all information should be free. Some possible objections to this is that this would erode privacy, right? Just personal privacy, like your personal information you might have up on the internet, like personal photographs of yourself or personal emails you have stored in your maybe your Gmail account or something like that. Should that information also be free and freely accessed by anyone, for example? So this would erode privacy. And what about property rights? Aren't there property rights as far as music ownership and movie ownership? Doesn't this violate those kinds of property rights or property rights in regards to computer software? So we will get deeper into this subject about property rights on the internet in a later chapter. However, in response to this, some hackers may state this. They may claim that only certain information should be free. Maybe they might say, for example, your private emails should be held private, but maybe other kinds of information should be free for anyone on the internet. Okay, so let's get to the second principle of a hacker ethic, is that hackers provide society with a useful and important service. So some things these hackers do is they search and expose illicit activities, and many times by large corporations that are doing unethical things. These hackers try to expose them and bring out this information to the public and make the public aware of it. Also, hackers can find security holes in cyberspace, and then they don't do anything with the security hole that they find. They don't, for example, exploit information or taint information or steal that information. Rather, they just let the person know that, hey, there's a security hole here, and you should try to fix it. So this way we can fix the holes. So they're trying to provide a useful service to society. So what might be some possible objections to this? I'll give you time to pause the computer or pause the video in order to think about this. So some possible objections here is that should we thank an intruder who broke into our home to inform us that our security system has a hole? So hackers who find security holes in people's systems, isn't that like let's say, an intruder who breaks into your house in the middle of the night, doesn't steal anything or anything like that, but they break into your house in the middle of the night and let you know, hey, I was able to break into your house and there's a problem with your security system. There's a hole in it, and you should think about maybe upgrading your security system or something like that. Is that ethical? Is that something that we should approve of, that's morally approvable, and that we should kind of morally praise someone for doing something like this, intruding into your home. Well, isn't this analogous to what hackers are doing? Also, exposing a corporation for being unethical still requires breaking into their system. So hackers are still going somewhere where companies don't want them to go into. So they're kind of, in a way, breaking into their system in order to find these unethical or illegal activities that these companies are doing. So isn't this wrong? Um, okay, so let's move on to the third principle here, is that activities in cyberspace are virtual, so they don't harm real people in the real world. So the idea here is trying to create a demarcation or a split between activities that are done on the internet versus those that are not done on the internet, that are done in the physical world. The idea here is, if they, through their hacking practices, they might seemingly harm someone on the internet or harm a corporation, they're not really harming them because they're not really harming real people in the physical world. It's just in the virtual world. So an objection against this is that if someone sent a threatening email to an innocent person, that creates harm in an unethical way. For example, let's say someone sends a threatening email to an innocent person, maybe threatening their life or their children's lives or what have you, and causing great fear in this person who receives the email. Well, that's unethical to do, right? Sending this kind of email, that's wrong. But it was done over the internet, so it's not really harming a real person, right? Based on the third principle, what follows from that is it's not harming a real person in the physical world, but it actually really is. So things that happen, activities that occur over cyberspace, even though we can say it's in the virtual world, it does have an effect on the real world. Once again, this is a counterexample to it. If someone sent this kind of threatening email, that would be a harm to a real person in the real world. And whether it was sent over email, or if this letter was, let's say, mailed to them physically by the post office, that really makes no difference. Either case, whether it's in the virtual world or the physical world, it's still wrong. It's still unethical. Other examples of harms that can occur over cyberspace that are real harms for real people are things like revenge porn and child pornography. Okay, so next, let's discuss this question. Are there cases where computer break-ins are morally justified? Is that morally justified for a hacker to come in and hack into a computer? Well, there might be some cases here where we might think that this is morally permissible. For example, let's look at the first case. Let's say we need to access medical information stored electronically, and this medical information is on a patient where we need to access this medical information right now. Let's say they're suffering some kind of immediate threat to their life, a very serious medical situation occurring right now at the moment, and we need to have access to this medical information, but the person with the access code is away at the moment. Maybe they're gone at lunch or something like that, and there's no way to access that information. However, there is, let's say, a hacker who knows how to hack into the computer and get this kind of information. So this would be a case where this is a kind of benign situation where it would be morally permissible to hack into this computer. At one point, we might be, let's say, violating someone's privacy by hacking into their own personal computer, the person who's away at lunch, let's say. But here we can think that there are utilitarian reasons, overriding utilitarian reasons for doing so, because this person is about to die, right? And human life on a utilitarian calculation carries extreme amount of weight, qualitative as well as quantitative pleasure in regards to life. So there would be utilitarian reasons for hacking into this person's computer on this case. All right, so let's look at a different situation here. And this is a real world situation. This actually happened. Hackers discovered that Sony was monitoring the listening habits of their unsuspecting customers who purchased digital music from them. Sony secretly installed programs onto their computers to send back the information, such as about what their listening habits were, and they installed, without the customer's awareness or consent computer programs that limited the person's ability to copy music on that computer. So in this situation, is this morally justified for the hackers to perform, the relevant hackers, for the actions that they performed in this particular situation? And at one time they were hacking in to Sony, right? To Sony's electronic information, and that can be seen as evidence maybe in favor of Sony that the hackers are doing something they shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, we see the kind of information that the hackers exposed, right? So this is an interesting moral dilemma in which there are reasons on both sides, and further work needs to be done as far as getting deeper into the issue and figuring out which side carries greater weight. So I'll leave this open for our discussion in the forums. Another kind of philosophical definitional kind of question is that can arise here with this second case is ethical hacker, this term ethical hacker, is it an oxymoron or not? Is it a kind of contradiction of itself? How can a hacker be ethical when a hacker has to, let's say, break into the files, electronic files of Sony, for example? Is it possible to accurate to say that there is an ethical hacker, or is that just a contradiction of terms? And I'll also leave this for our future discussions on the forum. Okay, next let's discuss hacktivism. So is activism, political, social, ethical activism using cyber technology morally acceptable? So it is at times morally permissible to practice civil disobedience, such as by breaking laws, to protest an injustice, if it is nonviolent and one is willing to accept the outcome, such as possible jail time. So you can imagine, for example, Rosa Parks breaking the law as far as not getting up and moving to the back of the bus as a kind of ethical, political, social protest, an act of civil disobedience. You can think of Martin Luther King Jr. organizing a bunch of rallies and protests, breaking the laws about mass protests and demonstrations, and serving jail time for it, but it was all in order to have to fight for equal civil rights for African Americans. So there are times where this kind of civil disobedience is morally permissible. So then the question for our purposes is that, is it ethical to hack the computers of those who are performing an injustice, but hack these computers in a manner that is consistent with civil disobedience? So is it possible to practice civil disobedience in an ethical way? At times breaking laws perhaps, but doing it in a kind of spirit of civil disobedience, except you using cyber technology to do so. And here's a case study. Let's say a hacker temporarily disallows customers to access a computer's website. And this is a company that is known to practice racial discrimination against potential clients. So there's a particular online business, let's say, and they're known to discriminate, perform racial discrimination. And would it be more permissible as an act or potential act of civil disobedience to, let's say, disallow any possible customers to access the company's website, to completely block the company's website in this case for, let's say, a temporary but meaningfully long period of time? So I'll also leave this for our future discussions where we'll get deeper into it in the forums. Okay, so next let's discuss this concept of cyber terrorism. And cyber terrorism is politically motivated hacking operations intended to cause grave harm, such as death or severe economic loss, usually by non-state actors, usually by persons who are not, let's say, representatives of a government, but let's say by a small group, significantly smaller group that does not represent the political state of their society. So there's cyber terrorism. There's also something along the same lines, but something a little bit different here is called information warfare. And this is operations that target or exploit information media in order to win some objective over an adversary. All right, and this need not, it can, but it need not involve grave harm that leads to, for example, death or severe economic loss. And it's usually carried out by state actors, by government, by providing misleading information or malware. So notice here that information warfare and cyber terrorism differ in that cyber terrorism is carried out by non-state actors and always does include grave harm. Information warfare need not include grave harm, and it's carried out by state actors, by, let's say, government. All right, and one example of this in current events is the Russian interference in the US elections in 2016 on social media sites, such as on Facebook. Let's look at this particular example about information warfare. Let's look at this particular case that is a real-world case that did happen. And the question here is that, is it morally justified for nation states like the US to launch cyber attacks against what they consider to be rogue nations, like Iran, to limit their nuclear capabilities when they pose an imminent threat? So is this morally justified? Why or why not? Think about possible ethical theories that might come into play in this situation, and which ethical theory or what kinds of reasons kind of carry the greater force of reasons and weight on their side. And let's say in such a case, there's no declaration of war, there's no formal declaration of war going on, but this information warfare actually occurs. Right, the US launched a cyber attack against Iran. And at the same time, it's important to keep in mind that there could be possible retaliation, let's say by Iran against US businesses. So that also potentially could happen. Perhaps maybe Iran may launch cyber attacks themselves against US entities. So I'll leave you to think about this even more, and then we'll discuss this even deeper in the forum posts. So that's it for this lesson, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation on what are, I perceive to be very interesting ethical issues in regards to cyber technology.